Who are the proletariat? Working class, middle class, ruling class?
On October 27, 2021, Howard Beckett, a leftish British trade unionist, published a tweet outlining his idea of a socialist economy. Although I didn't think he was really describing socialism, at least his list included many elements of a more democratic society. So I replied with what I would have thought would be the foundational principle of any socialist economy, which Beckett had not mentioned.
Workers' control of the means of production.
This seemed pretty uncontroversial to me, though not perhaps to the average British trade unionist, member of the Labour Party, or to anyone further to the right than that, which is, admittedly, almost everyone. So I was not very surprised to quickly receive the following reply.
That's worked in lots of places. Not.
I won't say who it was from. You can find out if you really want to, but that's not really the point. They were only saying what I would guess most people think, but I still felt obliged to reply. So,
name me one place where the workers, not the state, were in control of the means of production.
I emphasised this point, direct control by the workers rather than the state, because this is a trap socialists frequently fall into, especially in the UK. They confuse socialisation with nationalisation. But nationalisation is just direct state control, and is as much a right-wing policy as a left-wing policy. Any regime seeking to develop or protect an industry they believe is important to a nation's or their allies' economic interests can nationalise it, and a nationalised industry will be manipulated according to whatever ends the party in power is pursuing. Despite the rhetoric, liberals, conservatives and socialists have all turned out to be pretty happy to have nationalised industries at their disposal, though they tend to do different things with them. And of course, nationalised industries are usually administered by civil servants, or something very close, and there's certainly no reason to think they are committed to socialism. Finally, when nationalisation is used by a left-wing government, but the economy as a whole remains firmly capitalist, the benefits to society as a whole are questionable. Hence, I think, Engels' reservations.
Therein precisely lies the rub, for so long as the propertied classes remain at the helm, nationalisation never abolishes exploitation, but merely changes its form. In the French, American or Swiss republics no less than in monarchist Central and despotic Eastern Europe.
The same applies to many of the other items on Howard Beckett's list, which is the reason they don't really describe a socialist economy, as he claims. A real socialist economy would be one that couldn't serve any interests but those of the workers, and was directly controlled by the workers themselves. Hence my preference for the term socialisation. However, my correspondent ignored this point, preferring to reply, pretty predictably,
It's such a bad idea, nobody has bothered to try it.
Leaving aside the shifting argument, if nobody has bothered to try it, then it can't be true that that's worked in lots of places not. This is such a common response that I thought I ought to at least try to find out exactly what they thought the problem was. So I replied,
Explain to me why.
The answer revealed an assumption about my original comment that I believe is also implicit in a great deal of left-wing analysis.
Define means of production. Do you mean workers? Normal everyday, people who earn an average wage? Now controlling companies like Glaxo/Land Rover, Lloyds, GKN, etc., and being able to define strategy and carry the companies forward. Complete cock-up comes to mind.
This suggested a narrow but pretty traditional idea of who the workers are, so I replied,
No, by workers I mean all employees, which also means designers, analysts, architects, strategists, investment teams, etc. All the board does is represent the owners, and it's been a long while since the owners did anything but siphon off the profits made by other people.
The reply simply sidestepped my response, shifting instead to a quite different issue.
And how do the companies get investment funds?
To which I replied,
Same way they do now. Most investments are funded out of profits or loans based on corporate value/performance. It's a century since the capitalists personally made the investments.
I could also have mentioned various methods of manipulating shares, organising government support, and so on, but I doubt that it would have made any difference. This time there was no comeback, at least not from that particular individual. Again, I wasn't surprised. That's the usual limit of the argument. By and large, it was the kind of exchange any socialist might have any day of the week. But even as I wrote, I reflected, for the 100th time, that, if this is the level of popular understanding of socialism and capitalism, then socialists everywhere have a long, hard road in front of them, just to get people to understand the basic mechanics of society. And at the same time, I was not at all sure that the assumptions implicit in this exchange are not also shared by many of my fellow socialists, who would consequently struggle to explain a coherently socialist position. This worries me every bit as much as the first point. So, what follows is an effort to elaborate the above exchange and come up with a coherent picture of exactly what the central yet unmentioned term in this entire argument, proletariat, really means.